I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. And I wished I had siblings.
What she told the royal family, what she told Harry, wouldn't have jived, wouldn't have been consistent with the truth. I believe she had a clear motive for writing family off because it would seemingly justify and perhaps delay the revelation of all of the lies that she had told the royal family.
The gavel didn't just fall that day. It exploded like a bomb in the courtroom. On September 9th, 2025, inside the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, Meghan Markle's so-called unstoppable legal empire finally showed its cracks for the whole world to see. Chief Judge William Pryor didn't simply raise an eyebrow or offer polite criticism. He tore into her legal dream team with the kind of precision that left even veteran lawyers frozen in place. Witnesses say the air in the room turned electric as his words cut deeper than any cross-examination ever could.
Ongoing saga, yet another chapter with more megalomania. They're going to dig out all of those insults. They're going to keep referencing the with love Meghan. Well, I can tell you there's no love lost between those two.
Meghan's attorneys, the same high-priced defense squad she's been parading for years as untouchable, were suddenly exposed like amateurs on the biggest stage. Pryor's voice carried through the chamber with authority, and every line landed like a direct strike. Sharp, unrelenting, and humiliating were the whispers spilling out after. People sitting in the gallery reportedly leaned forward in disbelief because what they were watching wasn't just a court proceeding, it was a demolition of credibility in real time. The reaction, gasps, shaken notes, and frantic shuffling as Meghan's team scrambled to recover. But the truth was clear. This wasn't a minor stumble. It was a public shattering of the image she'd carefully built. For the first time in years, Meghan Markle's legal powerhouse looked vulnerable. No Hollywood PR spin, no royal gloss, just raw defeat echoing through the courtroom walls. Samantha Markle's lawyer didn't just sit back quietly. He was grinning ear to ear like a man who already knew the verdict had swung his way. Across the room, royal watchers and reporters clutched their pearls in disbelief, struggling to process what they had just witnessed. The contrast was shocking. On one side, Meghan's dream team sweating bullets, and on the other, Samantha's camp glowing with satisfaction, almost savoring the chaos unraveling before their eyes. One insider whispered that the silence after Judge Pryor's scorching words was so thick you could cut it with a crown. Imagine that. An entire courtroom frozen, the air heavy with shock.
Capable of empathy, remorse, or shame. I don't think she could feel enough to apologize.
As Meghan's million-dollar defense suddenly looked like a house of cards about to collapse. And here's the twist. That was just the opening blow. Because what unfolded in that courtroom didn't only rattle Meghan's attorneys, it shook the foundation of Meghan's carefully polished image. This wasn't about a single lawsuit anymore. It was about exposing cracks in her brand that she spent years and millions trying to protect. The moment felt less like legal procedure and more like a grand unveiling. A mask being ripped off in front of stunned spectators. For the first time, the royal rebel turned Hollywood power player wasn't the one writing the script. She was the one scrambling to survive it. Let's break down the characters in this royal courtroom soap opera because every single one played a role that day. First up, Judge William Pryor, the man the press is already calling the Grim Reaper in a robe. Precise, merciless, and locked in on every sloppy argument like a hawk on prey. He didn't just question, he dismantled, slicing through legal jargon until nothing was left standing but silence and red faces. Then there's Peter Tan, Samantha Markle's attorney.
I didn't do anything. And she just woke up one day in a new world and decided that she doesn't have any family.
If Pryor was the blade, Tan was the fire that kept fanning the flames. This man walked into the courtroom with confidence and walked out looking like he'd just pulled off the biggest royal takedown of the decade. He turned Meghan's defense into what he famously called a smorgasbord of excuses, branding her million-dollar legal wall as nothing more than a cheap buffet line that no one wanted to touch. The crowd ate it up, some even laughing under their breath at the brutal comparison. And then, center stage, or rather, conspicuously absent, was Meghan Markle herself. Usually, she's the Duchess of Damage Control, armed with a full squad of crisis managers and spin doctors working overtime. But in that courtroom, Meghan was nowhere to be found. She sat miles away, powerless, forced to watch her supposedly ironclad legal team crumble into what looked like the most expensive group of unpaid interns California has ever produced.
Lost my father. We knew that she didn't lose our dad. She iced our father.
The optics were devastating. The royal-turned-Hollywood powerhouse suddenly reduced to a silent spectator while her empire cracked in real time. For years, Meghan has sold herself as the picture of invincibility, polished, untouchable, and always 3 steps ahead of the storm. But the illusion shattered in an instant when Judge Pryor dismissed her team's carefully rehearsed arguments as beside the point. That wasn't just a critique, it was a public execution of her legal strategy, an obituary for her courtroom credibility delivered in real time for anyone watching the case unfold. The moment his words hit the record, the myth of Meghan's flawless control began to crumble. Sources out of Monteceto claim Meghan's phone started buzzing before she even finished sipping her oat latte that morning. Calls from panicked advisors, shaken insiders, and nervous allies all asking the same thing. What just happened in that courtroom? Suddenly, the chatter wasn't about her next project or polished PR rollout.
In 2022, the Duchess of Sussex estranged half-sister Samantha Markle sued Meghan Markle for allegedly defaming her in multiple interviews, including that 2021 tell-all with Oprah Winfrey.
It was about survival, about whether the brand could withstand this kind of humiliation. Receipt number 1? Judge Pryor's verbal demolition, which witnesses described as nothing short of a beatdown. Eyewitnesses inside the chamber painted an almost cinematic scene. Meghan's top-dollar lawyers frozen in place like deer caught in blinding headlights, eyes wide, mouths shut, waiting for the next blow. Over on GB News, legal commentators didn't sugarcoat it either. They called it a beatdown in robes and said it was the kind of humiliation that no amount of spin doctors could erase. And the details? Brutal. One attorney's hands reportedly trembled so violently while fumbling through papers that it looked like he was trying to stir an invisible cocktail. The gallery saw it, the reporters wrote it down, and now the world is replaying it in headlines that Meghan cannot control. Receipt number 2 came wrapped in a single word that's already gone down in legal history, the now infamous smorgasbord line. With one brutal stroke, Samantha Markle's lawyer branded Meghan's million-dollar defense as nothing more than a sloppy buffet, a grab bag of half-baked excuses instead of a solid argument. The phrase detonated like a meme factory in real time. Within hours, it was trending online, clipped, remixed, and mocked across every platform imaginable. One commentator even joked, her lawyers didn't serve a case, they served leftovers. And just like that, Meghan's carefully polished courtroom aura became late-night comedy material. But receipt number 3? That was the unthinkable, her own lawyers, admitting to mistakes in open court. Yes, Hollywood's most expensive squad basically confessed they had overlooked key issues, handing Samantha's side the kind of ammunition most lawyers only dream of.
Physician was not allowed to examine her womb. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but if I were pregnant with a royal child, you would want that child in the best care of the best medical practitioners that money could buy.
It wasn't just a slip-up, it was a live broadcast of incompetence, a legal team collapsing under the pressure with the world watching. Legal analysts didn't hold back either. Words like malpractice in real time lit up the airwaves, as every stumble and every botched rebuttal seemed to hand Samantha's team another victory. Even court insiders said you could almost see Samantha suppressing a smile while her sister's high-priced defense dug itself deeper into the hole. TikTok creators were already splicing clips into viral takedowns before Meghan's team could even pack up their binders. 3 receipts in, and the courtroom wasn't just leaning toward Samantha, it was tilting like a shipwreck, while Meghan's empire looked seconds away from going under. But the courtroom fireworks were only half the story, because once social media got its hands on this circus, the chaos went nuclear. Twitter didn't just react, it erupted, flooding timelines with hashtags like #SmorgasbordDefense and #MarkleMeltdown, both shooting straight to the top of the trending charts. Suddenly, Meghan's legal nightmare wasn't just confined to the 11th Circuit, it had become a worldwide meme war, and her team was the punchline.
Has personality profile that perfectly enables someone who is an alleged narcissist.
The creativity was savage. One viral meme showed Meghan's attorneys standing behind a buffet table with trays labeled, "Oops, we forgot that," and "Next excuse." TikTok creators jumped in instantly, donning cheap wigs and pounding gavels as they lip-synced Judge Pryor's crushing words. Beside the point, each skit pulled in millions of views, with users laughing, sharing, and commenting as if they'd just binged the latest reality show episode. Reddit didn't hold back either. Entire threads exploded overnight, with self-proclaimed case detectives building digital corkboards, mapping out timelines, and treating Meghan's legal slip-ups like the next big true crime mystery. Screenshots of court transcripts circulated like wildfire, every highlighted line dissected, mocked, and stamped into internet history. And here's the kicker. What Meghan's lawyers thought was just a rough day in court had transformed into full-on internet entertainment.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. And I wished I had siblings.
The trial had escaped the walls of the courtroom, morphing into a cultural spectacle where every mistake, every stumble, and every awkward pause was replayed, remixed, and ridiculed in real time by millions around the globe. When the dust settled, the internet crowned its own verdict, and it wasn't in Meghan's favor. On the trending docu-series recap clips, the top comment said it all. Samantha didn't even need a legal team. Meghan's lawyers did her work for her brutal, but it struck a nerve because it echoed what millions were already thinking. Then came the headlines, plastered across tabloids like neon billboards of shame. In the UK, front pages screamed Markle's smorgasbord disaster, while a US outlet didn't hold back with the cutting label, Duchess of Denial, Queen of Excuses. This wasn't just court coverage, it was humiliation turned into mass entertainment, a global spectacle with Meghan at the center and the internet gleefully piling on. And Meghan? Silent. No Instagram carousel, no glossy statement carefully worded by her PR squad, no subtle leaks to friendly journalists, just silence. But that silence only fueled the speculation, making every whisper louder and every meme hit harder. Meanwhile, inside Monteceto, things were anything but calm.
We thought, my brother and I thought, a pretty normal life. But it wasn't until the time of the wedding when the media started to get to us.
Sources whispered about frantic emergency Zoom calls with crisis PR firms dialed in from London to Los Angeles. Harry was said to be pacing the halls, visibly stressed, while Meghan's inner circle frantically drafted spin that sounded less like a polished defense and more like medical triage, patching holes in a sinking ship. But here's the core problem. Meghan's brand was built on one foundation: competence and control. She sold herself as the woman who could outsmart the palace, reinvent Hollywood, and never lose. Now, that image was dangling by a thread, and the world was starting to ask the question Meghan fears most. What happens when the woman who never loses finally does? So what happens when Meghan's own lawyers admit in open court that they weren't prepared? The answer rippled far beyond the courtroom walls. It shook Hollywood itself. Behind closed doors, streaming partners started reviewing contracts, flipping through fine print, and asking uncomfortable questions about liability clauses. Publishing houses whispered about risk assessments and whether Meghan's name, once sold as a sure bet, now carried too much baggage. One executive even leaked that the Sussex brand feels fragile, a stunning reversal for a couple once marketed as untouchable power players. Suddenly, it wasn't just Spotify's infamous breakup or Netflix's stalled projects making headlines. Every deal tied to Meghan and Harry looked shaky, vulnerable, and up for debate. The whispers weren't about expansion anymore. They were about damage control, and the business world was bracing for impact.
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
This wasn't routine PR cleanup. It was brand triage. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, found herself at the center of a storm that no glossy statement or staged photo shoot could spin away. Each stumble in court had turned into a financial domino, knocking over the partnerships that once seemed locked in. And here's the chilling part. The fallout wasn't just Monteceto gossip whispered over wine glasses in luxury kitchens. This was the beginning of something much bigger, a global unraveling of the carefully constructed Meghan Markle brand. The image of the unstoppable Duchess was cracking, and for the first time, the world saw not power and polish, but weakness and uncertainty. Here's why Samantha's camp is practically popping champagne right now. They didn't just win a courtroom skirmish, they rewrote the entire narrative that Meghan has carefully sold for years. For so long, Samantha's lawsuits were brushed off as petty, dismissed as desperate grabs for attention. But after Judge Pryor's thunderous takedown, those so-called petty claims suddenly look prophetic, and Samantha now appears not as the bitter outsider, but as the sister who finally cracked Meghan's armor wide open. And the consequences? They're massive. Meghan's whole brand has been built on this idea of being untouchable, always in control, always 3 moves ahead of everyone else. But once the illusion of invincibility shatters, everything changes. Insiders are already saying that other critics and rivals are circling, emboldened by the spectacle. If Samantha could land a blow this big, why wouldn't the next opponent step up and try the same? The truth is, power isn't just about winning. It's about scaring others away from even trying. And Meghan just lost that shield in spectacular fashion. Now every journalist with a grudge, every former friend with a story, every critic she's silenced with PR spin suddenly looks a little braver, a little louder, and a whole lot more dangerous.
I'll tell you why. What she told the royal family, what she told Harry, wouldn't have jived, wouldn't have been consistent with the truth.
Samantha's victory didn't just expose cracks. It lit a signal flare that Meghan's once ironclad empire might finally be fair game. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because this courtroom fiasco isn't an isolated slip, it's starting to look like a pattern. More lawsuits, more headlines, more meltdowns piling up one after the other. First, there was the Spotify grifters' humiliation, when executives pulled the plug and called out the Sussex deal as smoke and mirrors. Then came the Netflix backlash, with whispers that their $100 million contract had delivered more drama than actual content. Add to that the swirling age controversy rumors that never quite died down, and now, this catastrophic courtroom disaster. Put together, it paints a brutal picture. Meghan's brand isn't just dented, it's unraveling one scandal at a time. The royal rebel image she tried to market has been replaced by a string of failures that even her fiercest defenders struggle to spin. Each blow chips away at her credibility, each stumble invites more mockery, and each headline adds fuel to the firestorm around her name. And the scariest part? These aren't just PR missteps. Their credibility collapses happening on the world stage. Hollywood executives are whispering,
I think the palace and the machinery of the monarchy needs to take Harry and Meghan more seriously and make sure that Harry and Meghan's antics don't impact the future of the crown.
Tabloids are circling like vultures, and insiders are saying Meghan's once golden aura has turned into a flashing red warning sign. What was once seen as power now looks like weakness, and the sharks smell blood. So the question now is simple but brutal. Was this courtroom collapse just a chapter, or the opening act of Meghan's full unraveling? Because once a pattern is visible, the vultures don't fly away. They circle closer. Royal insiders are already comparing this moment to Prince Andrew's infamous BBC interview, a single disaster that forever stained his credibility. And they're asking, could Meghan be headed down that same path? Think about it. If her million-dollar lawyers couldn't defend her from Samantha Markle, what happens when the bigger sharks show up? Former palace staff with long memories, industry power brokers with grudges, publishers holding on to stories they never dared print before. Suddenly, they all have an opening. The image of Meghan as untouchable has cracked, and cracks have a way of spreading until the whole structure gives way. Even Hollywood, the place she thought she'd conquered, is whispering about contingency plans. Executives don't like risk, and right now, Meghan looks like the riskiest bet in the room. Add in Harry's increasingly awkward public appearances and the silence pouring out of Monteceto, and the Sussex brand feels less like royalty and more like a sinking ship. Here's the cliffhanger. Samantha may have scored one courtroom win, but did she just unlock a domino effect that no PR team on earth can stop? Because if a single smorgasbord line could turn Meghan's defense into a meme, imagine what happens when the next scandal hits. This isn't just about one case anymore. It could be the start of Meghan Markle's long, unstoppable unraveling. Royal insiders aren't holding back. They're openly comparing Meghan's humiliation to Prince Andrew's infamous BBC interview, the kind of credibility collapse you simply cannot PR away. That interview destroyed Andrew's standing overnight, and insiders warn Meghan may be staring down the same fate. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. If $1 million legal defense can't withstand Samantha Markle, what hope does it have against the next heavyweight challenger waiting in the wings?
We're the opportunists of family name and of family stories and of photographs.
And the whispers go further. If her team can fumble something as fundamental as courtroom competence, something that should be ironclad at that price tag, then what else has been rewritten? What other stories, timelines, or carefully curated narratives are suddenly up for questioning? Royal watchers are buzzing that this wasn't just a legal embarrassment, it was a glimpse behind the curtain of Meghan's entire brand strategy. A strategy now looking less like brilliance and more like smoke and mirrors. The scariest part for Meghan, once credibility breaks, it rarely heals. Prince Andrew never recovered from his interview debacle, no matter how many attempts were made to spin or soften it. And now people are asking, is Meghan's Duchess of Control image about to follow the same doomed path? With Samantha's win echoing across headlines and social media turning the smorgasbord line into internet history, Meghan's empire of control may already be slipping through her fingers. Was this courtroom chaos just one sister's win, or the opening act of Meghan Markle's long unraveling? Because make no mistake, the impact of Samantha's victory goes way beyond a single legal moment. It sent a signal to the world. Meghan isn't untouchable anymore. Think about it. A single word, smorgasbord, was enough to turn her $1 million defense into a global meme factory. Overnight, her polished legal team became a punchline, her courtroom strategy reduced to leftovers, and her brand dragged across front pages like a scandal in neon lights. If one slip could cause this much damage, what happens when the bigger sharks smell blood? Former palace aides who've stayed quiet, Hollywood power players with scores to settle, publishers sitting on unprinted stories. Suddenly, they all look braver, louder, and ready to strike. The armor Meghan has relied on for years is cracked, and cracks only spread wider with pressure. So the question is no longer whether Samantha won, it's whether this was just the beginning of something far more devastating. Because if a single sister could shake the Duchess to her core, what happens when the real predators start circling? The stage is set, the spotlight is burning, and Meghan's next move could determine whether her empire survives or collapses in front of millions. So now it's over to you. Do you think Meghan's legal empire is finished for good, or can her high-priced team somehow spin this disaster back in her favor? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is the kind of drama people will be debating for years. Was Samantha's courtroom smackdown just a lucky strike, or the beginning of a chain reaction that Meghan and Harry won't be able to stop? I want to hear it. Can a duchess built on control and polish survive after being turned into a meme over a single word? Or are we watching the first domino in a downfall that no PR squad on earth can clean up? Your take matters, because the internet isn't just watching anymore. It's driving the story forward with every share, every headline, and every viral clip. And before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because if this courtroom clash was just the appetizer, the main course of Meghan's unraveling is still on the way. Trust me, you do not want to miss what comes next, because the storm around Meghan Markle is only getting bigger, louder, and messier by the day.